When France was defeated by Britain, New France was dismembered by the Treaty of Paris. The administrative system was run by the British and those who supported them. People generally adapted, and French and English would even ally to augment power and prestige. In the short term, the Francophone culture survived, but in the long term, it was anglicized by the influx of American immigrants. Throughout the continent, Canadians were considered to be complacent, have little initiative, and be led by an ignorant clergy. The Treaty of Paris gave the British power in Canadian politics and economics. The British became les Anglais, and the French became something that the British wouldn't swallow. The Royal Proclamation tried to make Canada exactly like other colonies, except that they would have a legislative assembly. Though Catholicism was allowed, its hierarchy was not permitted. Anglicism and Protestants were to be promoted, and conversion was emphasized. The Catholic Church risked disappearing because it lost 1/3 of its numbers in the war. The British prevented a nomination of a new bishop when the old one died, and the new government made priests hard to recruit. The Test Act prevented Canadians from getting administrative positions, and so subjected them to the British minority. The assimilation of their culture was unacceptable to the French, but the Anglicization was impractical because Britain was unable to draw English speakers into New France fast enough. The British allowed Jean-Olivier Briand to be crowned as bishop.
The Quebec Act effectively nullified the Royal Proclamation and the Test Act.
When Americans invaded, Canadians remained neutral.
When the Americans won independence, 7,000 Loyalists arrived in Canada. Canada was split into Upper and Lower Canada by the Constitutional Act. In the first Lower Canada election, 34 French and 16 English were elected. The first debate was about the nationality of the speaker, which the French won. The second debate was about the language. It was decided that members could use the language of their choice. French would be used for civil text, and English would be used for criminal law text. Later debates represented this ethnic split. The British policy of land concession, which meant that British sold land to speculators, merchants, and friends of the regime, accentuated the overpopulation problems. The Francophone independent personality meant that the Church had problems maintaining control. Furthermore, Canadians, who represented 90% of the population, only had 40% of the government jobs.
The validity of 2 Lower Canada teachers was called into question by Upper Canada authorities.
Francophone parents had to fight to avoid having their school moved by Anglophone ratepayers. Also, there was a reluctance by some European immigrants to practice their faith in French-speaking churches.
Canadians believed that the Irish immigration, which carried cholera, was a deliberate attempt by the British to kill them off.
The Canadians have a victory as Quebec becomes a French province.